If I asked you to tell me what a sweet spot is in a nice, concise manner, would you be able to do so? A coach that I've been working with for tennis asked me that exact same question, and while I had a nice, concise answer for him, he phrased his own answer in a way that I had never heard or thought of before in all my years of playing all different kinds of racket sports. I thought it was brilliant because it helped me understand why I gravitate towards certain rackets, and I'd like to share it with you because I think it will be of use to you too. My definition of a sweet spot used to be that it is the area of your racket's hitting surface where the ball making contact feels the best. I've heard other versions of this, such as it's the part of the hitting surface where the ball making contact has the less shock, or it's the most pleasant sounding, or it's the softest feeling part of a string bed. These are all valid, and you probably have heard others too. And in all likelihood, you probably have your own way of defining a sweet spot, and that's okay. But here is how my coach phrased it. The sweet spot is the area of your string bed where your racket performs the best. Let me explain the context. He noticed that the location of ball contact on my string bed varies depending on the shot I'm playing, and was curious as to why that is the case. I explained to him, as I've done before in this video, that this is the result of my squash background where my racket of choice is teardrop shaped. Here's a clip from that video.
And in my case, I do tend to make contact with the string bed lower than I normally would when hitting drop shots. I actually learned this from playing squash, where the mains tend to be quite long, so there's a lot of variability in the response you get from the string bed from the very tip of the racket to the very bottom. And here, I tend to hit my drop shots very close to around this area of the racket.
His very next question to me was, do you like the kind of string beds where the performance varies a lot, or do you prefer for it to stay more or less consistent as you move away from the area of ideal performance? My answer was the latter, that I prefer for it to stay more or less consistent as I move away from the sweet spot. That makes sense, given my tendency to use much more of the string bed than just the sweet spot. We've all played with rackets that have no power if you don't strike the ball dead in the sweet spot, right? In tennis, the Prestiges and the Pro Staffs come to mind. I find I cannot play with those rackets even though my current skill level allows me to strike the sweet spot consistently. This really helped me understand why I gravitate towards power frames, especially the kinds that have very generous sweet spots. Yes, it's true that generous sweet spots don't come for free. The technology and the geometry that enables that is usually associated with less feel. But I've always felt that feel is this ambiguous and ill-defined term because it's subjective, so I don't tend to use it, although it does seep out from time to time. Instead, I prefer to use mutedness or harshness as a proxy for feel. Here's an example. I recently got this Prince Phantom 03-100 from Japan, which is a Japan-only edition as far as my understanding goes. One of the reasons for getting this racket was these 03 ports, which seems to be unique to Prince. These 03 ports give the racket a much bigger sweet spot, so much so that Prince calls it a sweet zone. In my experience, this is 100% accurate. But if you watch or read reviews of any Prince rackets with 03 ports on them, you'll almost always hear them being described as muted. That is also 100% accurate. But is it 100% fair? I don't think so. I think we're stuck in a very narrow frame of reference where mutedness is a negative attribute. Yes, a Pro Staff or a Prestige has a more defined sweet spot, and striking it is really pleasurable. But this racket gives me what I actually care about, striking the ball and seeing it go where I want it to go, aka playing well. To me, that is far more pleasurable and makes me feel way more connected with my tools of choice. I'm guessing a lot of you are also in this camp. So, performance is the key word here. I think variation of performance across the string bed is a much more useful way of thinking about a sweet spot because the context of whether your choice of equipment is going to work for you and your game matters. If you're looking for some gear soon, then hopefully this little rant of mine helps you make more informed choices. See you in the next one.